About a year and a half ago, I took a summer course on the politics of gender. Are we all okay? Are we gonna be okay? A class at a university about a relevant and prevalent social issue, I know. Okay. Throughout that course, we would make video reflections. And one of those videos was answering the question, what is gender? I randomly decided to post that video last week. And the language in it isn't as tight as my videos usually are because the original audience was one professor. So I wanted to expound on it a little, and then maybe we'll look at some comments as a treat. Let's begin with an example. Remember the M&M's fiasco from about a year ago? Tucker Carlson did a very long segment about how they changed some of their shoes.
The green M&M, you will notice, is no longer wearing sexy boots. Now she's wearing sensible sneakers. The brown M&M has, quote, transitioned from high stilettos to lower block heels. Also less sexy. You wouldn't want to have a drink with any one of them. That's the goal. When you're totally turned off, we've achieved equity.
Now, M&Ms are pieces of chocolate. The characters are colored circles with legs. And yet...
Now she's wearing sensible sneakers.
I don't see any anatomical features distinguishing that M&M as a woman. No primary or secondary sex characteristics, and I'm pretty sure M&Ms don't have XX or XY chromosomes. And yet, that M&M is for sure a girl. And that one is for sure a boy. Tucker agrees.
The orange M&M does appear very anxious. Maybe he doesn't like all the ugly new shoes he sees around him. Maybe he liked the sexy boots.
That's gender presentation. But you wouldn't just say that the brown and green M&Ms are girl presenting. No, they're just girls. That's why Tucker genders them as such. Gender refers to a social construct. This isn't a matter of opinion or topic of debate. It's categorical. It's the definition of the word. Sometimes it's used interchangeably with sex, but that's colloquial. It's a different thing. Sex is what's biological, determined by hormone washes in the womb and expressed anatomically. We've found a lot of utility linking gender with sex. So when someone is born with XX chromosomes and the anatomy that typically accompanies that, we associate that sex with the gender female or girl. By the way, fun fact, girl used to just be a gender-neutral term for child. We also used to dress children very differently regardless of gender. This girl is actually Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Gender expectations change over time. But okay, girl by today's standards. Many features that are associated with girl/womanhood are socially constructed. Like, why do women wear dresses and men wear pants? There's no anatomical reason for that. I've seen the argument that, like, dresses are made to fit a woman's figure, but okay, that's because we made them that way. Shift dresses aren't form-fitting and women still wear those. You can easily make a suit that fits the female figure or a dress that fits the male figure. It's not like we found this stuff in the wild, it's tailored. High heels originated in the Persian army to help soldiers' feet stay in stirrups, and then they were adopted by European aristocracy as menswear. Why do women wear them now? Again, there's no biological reason for that. Culture just changes. Even the go-to gender roles, like men being hunters and women being gatherers, have been found to largely be myths. Women have been found to have hunted just as much as men did. Now, there are biological differences between the sexes. Literally no one denies this. On average, males typically have higher androgen sensitivity than females, meaning that they grow more body hair and can build muscle faster. I used to powerlift, and my male partner would move up in weight so much faster than I did, it pissed me off. This was made worse by the fact that I briefly took an androgen blocker to help with my skin, and oh my god, it undid like 2 years of training in like a week. Androgens are crazy, man. There are also differences in brain chemistry, and recent literature has actually found that trans individuals have brain chemistry that differs from cis people, lending credence to the idea that there are men being born with more female brains and vice versa. By the way, cis and trans are just prefixes. Cis means on this side and trans means on the other side. There's cis-trans isomerism, cis and translunar econosphere, cis and transalpine Gaul. It's not just a gender thing. I wish I could zoom this camera out. I'm using a prime lens so you can't see. There's a cat down here. Say hi! Back to gender. Some people feel a sense of discomfort toward the characteristics associated with their biological sex. This can be to varying extents. For some people, it's with their actual physical anatomy. I don't like the idea that because I was born female, I should be submissive and domestic. In my other video, I talked about my male friend who wants to wear dresses and paint his nails. Now you might be thinking, can't people just subvert gender roles without having to change their whole gender identity? Yes, but in order to do that, we have to break from this rigid gender binary where only women can wear dresses, so if you want to wear a dress, you have to be a woman. Let my friend be a guy and wear a dress, damn it. Hashtag let Cameron's guy friend wear a dress. If we really want to get into theory, gender is a performance. It's not a set status, it's something that has to be constantly reaffirmed. That's why men get criticized for not being manly enough. Like, shouldn't it be enough just to be born male? But no, we hear all this rhetoric about what real men do and how real men act. Also, we act like the idea of men dressing like women is so novel. Like, hello? Did we all just forget the makeup and hairdos of the 70s and 80s? David Bowie, Queen. There was a whole genre called glam metal. Poison, Motley Crue. Eddie Izzard identified as gender fluid in 1985. Fun fact, she goes by Susie now. She goes by both. I'm not dead naming her. Dead naming is when you refer to a trans person by the name they don't go by anymore. Don't do that, it's rude. Gender bending and cross-dressing were public practices in the 20s. There was a thriving queer scene with gay bars, cabarets, drag balls. The first ever Trans Health Institute was in Berlin. So, what is a woman? Well, when we're talking about gender, woman is a term of identification. It's like asking, what is a Packers fan? Not everyone from Wisconsin is a Packers fan. People who watch the Packers may not identify as fans of them, and Packers fans might not even watch all the games. Not everyone who does womanly things identifies as a woman. People who identify as women may not even do womanly things, and not everyone born female identifies as a woman. Or for another example, think of the term mother. What is a mother? Is it someone who gave birth? Because there are adoptive mothers who would be very offended by that. And maybe an adoptive mother is a different type of mother than a biological mother, but they're both mothers. Or say there's some sort of an environment where this person has been caring for a child for years and years, but they never got the legal status of adoption. Are they not a mother, at least in some sense? Ben Shapiro said that a mother is someone who does the act of mothering.
Motherhood being the act of mothering?
But aren't we against circular definitions? The answer is no. Sometimes circular definitions are fine. Pronouns and names are linguistic flourishes. Some people are born with one name and then decide they want to go by another one. You don't see people insisting Bruno Mars go by Peter Gene Hernandez because that's the name he was born with. Oh, I love that song, Tiny Dancer by Reginald Kenneth Dwight, his God-given name. The point is, gender is a social construct that we associate with sex and is maintained through constant performance and reinforcement. And letting people socially conform to the gender of their choosing actually has really positive outcomes. All right, let's look at some comments.
Lol, this gender nonsense is only taken seriously by women and gays, so women don't really exist. That means they could be easily replaced by AI. That's a good thing.
This is what happens when women take over science. It becomes dogma and just believe anything you want.
The concept of gender isn't necessary to categorize. Only sex matters. People with gender dysphoria reject their biological sexual characteristics, so they have to go through a lot to, who cares? Did he just give up in the middle of writing his comment?
Stupid bitch.
Maybe this was a bad idea.
When we die, our bones will be the only thing they go by. So how would one know the gender of the deceased?
This comment got a lot of shit, and I can understand why, because yes, skeletal characteristics can determine what sex someone was. But, I mean, this person is actually correct. You can't look at a skeleton and be able to tell in their mind what gender they identified as.
Gender is very simple. People are just dumber now. Your gender is the psychology of finding a binary mate.
That's sexual orientation, but okay.
Your friend is autogynephilic.
Okay, I guess we're talking about autogynephilia now. For those who don't know, autogynephilia is a theory from like the 80s, 90s that trans women are actually just men with a fetish for seeing themselves as women. The YouTuber ContraPoints made a whole video about this. It's very good. The guy who came up with this has faced immense scrutiny because his own research disproved this claim, but he would just exclude any evidence that didn't fit his hypothesis from his studies. His whole theory is full of ad hoc hypotheses tacked on to save his idea from being falsified. But there's something there, because you think that wanting to wear women's clothes inherently has to be a fetish. Why can't my friend just want to wear a dress? When I pick out my clothes in the morning, is that a sex thing? Is femininity inherently sexual? Because that's a whole other can of worms to open. PragerU did this. They said putting baby Gonzo in a dress was sexualizing them.
The princess who came to your ball tonight was me. I'm Gonzarella.
Do you think that this is age appropriate?
No.
No, this is something about sexualizing children is sick and perverted.
This, to me, is a direct attack on children. This is predatorial, in my opinion.
100%, it's child abuse.
Gonzo doesn't even have a gender and has been wearing dresses for as long as the character has existed. Look, if you think that a dress on a toddler is inherently sexual, that says more about you than anything.
Cis is a slur.
Why do people say that? What does it mean? It's the most neutral term in the world. It just means not trans. We need words to differentiate things. I'm cis. It's a prefix. Also, I don't know why you said umbrella here. Man is an umbrella term. Cis isn't. Man, people will be like, this issue isn't that complicated or hot button, and then follow it with the longest comment I've ever seen.
Now there arises a problem. When you say you don't feel like a man, what is that even supposed to mean? How do you know what it feels like to be a man or a woman?
What does Shania Twain mean when she says she feels like a woman?
Man, I feel like a woman.
As I mentioned earlier, there is actually literature backing up the idea that trans people have different brain composition than cis people. But let's not even start gatekeeping this based on, brain MRIs. We agree that there are gendered stereotypes associated with the sexes. So if you are born male, and you don't identify with the values and expectations associated with manhood, and you do identify with the values and expectations associated with womanhood, why can you not say you feel more like a woman than a man? I've said it before and I'll say it again. Men today are not the same as men 100 years ago, who are not the same as men 1,000 years ago. The same goes for women. It's culture, it's free-flowing, it's changing constantly. And like I said before, letting people express their gender in the way they choose has very positive mental health outcomes. All right, thank you.